What's up, everybody? You're back in here with the Pro Football Pod. You've got Hulk, Coach, Austin. You're in here with us, NFC West preview. If you haven't checked out our other videos, go check out the rest of the NFC West preview for you. We're going to dive into the Seahawks today, see how they stack up with the rest of their division and what their season might look like from a fantasy perspective. And overall, how will the team do this year? What's up, boys? You ready to dive into the 12th man and see what we can do?
Hey,
the Hawks,
baby.
The Hawks.
Go Hawks.
The Hawks are solid. They added Sam Howell this offseason. Quiet as fuck.
Power move.
Dude,
Power
honestly,
move.
I like
Wasn't
that
he a
move.
rookie
I
last
do.
year? Like,
2 years ago.
Yeah, he
2
wasn't
years.
bad, was my thing.
Yeah, not at all. He had a
Like,
lot of
I
volume.
didn't think. Now I understand why you're trading him away. New coaching staff that didn't draft him. You know you're
Jaden
drafting a quarterback
Daniels.
that's coming in and starting immediately. Get what you can out of him.
Yeah.
Hartman. Let's cool it.
And I love it for Seattle making the move because Geno's not getting any younger. You let Drew Lock go in this offseason. So I like Sam Howell. Yeah, Sam Hartman. Yeah, okay, he would have been cool, but we're not doing Head and Shoulders commercials out here. We're trying to win football games.
Yeah, that's what Sam does.
Now, they also added Jerome Baker. Fins up, baby. Great linebacker. I wouldn't say great. Very solid linebacker. Not really leaving a lot to be desired in his game from like a I can kind of do it all perspective. He just doesn't do anything at like the highest possible level. Leonard Williams, though. Shit.
Leonard
Defensive
Williams,
tackle?
Jonathan Hankins as well at defensive
Yeah.
tackle.
That
and
defense was already looking
Laken
like the,
Tomlinson
mini
for the
Legion of
offensive
Boom out
guard.
there.
They lost Bobby Wagner, Damian Lewis at guard, like I said, Drew Lock, and Jordan Brooks. Basically, they traded Jordan Brooks for Jerome Baker because
I like
Jordan
that.
Brooks went to Miami.
Yep.
They drafted Byron Murphy at defensive tackle, Christian Haynes, one of our mock draft darlings at offensive guard, AJ
Mauler.
Barner, the tight end from Michigan, and DJ James, the corner from Auburn. That was another one of our mock draft darlings. I like the AJ Barner pickup because Noah Fant hasn't necessarily given us what we wanted, especially for a tight end coming out of Iowa.
I agree. Whenever they traded away Russ and they got Noah Fant, everyone was like, "Oh, well, it's sick. Don't worry. Like we got Noah Fant. We'll be straight." And he really just like kind of hasn't done anything.
Yeah, didn't turn out like they thought he would.
I mean, the big thing with this team is
That happens.
JSN is starting to finally take that step into like where he's now Lockett is viewed as like the third best receiver on the team. Before last season started, everyone was like, man, is JSN actually going to be able to like creep in and take targets away from Lockett and DK? They were both like super good late target fan. Well, DK was always early, but Lockett was always that guy you could take in like the 6th or 7th round, and he was going to get so many targets and like enough big plays that he'd have a lot of value for you. I think it's actually
DK had some games where like they just weren't targeting him, and so like that was a big deal. But like, so I think they're emphasizing on getting him some targets this year. He should be their number one. I mean, he just deserves it.
Well, just natural form of development and progression as
Yeah.
well. You expect him to take over for the older guy, Tyler Lockett, to kind
Yeah.
of take a step back in his role this year. I mean, JSN played all 17 games last year, so credit to him. He ended the season with 93 targets, 63 receptions, 628 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I mean, kind of right there with Lockett in his rookie year as far as what he was able to keep up with him there.
He also had a wrist injury in the offseason. He had to have surgery and wasn't fully healthy until like week 5 or week 6.
Exactly.
And
Like,
that's
he
kind
was
of
out
when
there.
he took off. Like before that, he was doing nothing. 3 targets a game, maybe 30 yards, like not really leaving a lot to be desired.
I
But
like
once-
his value a lot in the 9th or 10th round. Like, you're getting him as a stash on your bench for fantasy. And with this offense, I mean, you had 3 receivers clear 90 targets in this offense.
Now,
That boy Gino was spinning that pill.
DK at the same time, being able to get him at the end of the 3rd, almost the 4th round, is the first time that he's fallen this far down. I think his value is finally starting to hit where
Accurate.
he is. Instead of
Yeah.
like, oh, look at how ripped he is and he's super fast. So I want this guy as my it's target share, guys. And like
And
he's
what you just said there leads me to a point that like I want to bring up on more shows as well, to where especially when we do our football for or fantasy for dummies series, is you're not drafting these fantasy teams like you're making a roster for Madden. Like, yes, DK is built in a lab, but that doesn't necessarily help you with fantasy because there's so many other factors you're having to rely on.
yes.
Like, so like I love what you said there, because I do agree his value is finally where I put his value at, of he is one of the top receivers in the league, but I'm not taking him in the end of the first, early second. Like,
Never.
he's just not going to get that target
there's
share.
a
He's
lot
the
of
number one wide receiver, but he
great
didn't lead his team in
receivers
targets
over
or
there.
receptions.
And I don't think he ever will, just because of how good those receivers are over there.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
17
three-headed
yards a
horse.
catch, 8 touchdowns. Like, he's the big play guy.
Exactly. He's way, way better than Gabe Davis. Like way, way better than that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What are we even talking
But he's
about?
he's still that type of a player. If he doesn't catch if he doesn't catch a 30 or 40-yard catch in a game, then the likelihood of him having a great game. He's also, in my eyes, he's a lot like Kittle, where he's going to disappear for 3 or 4 games a season at least, but then he's going to make up for that with another 2 or 3 games where he's potentially the best wide receiver of the week.
DK's value is at the end of the season when they need him.
Yes.
Like, we need to win games. We need you to be our guy. Let's go. Like, that's when his value takes place. And I'm all about that. Like,
How are y'all boys feeling on that boy Kenneth Walker?
So
now?
the same exact thing as Debo. He's been so overdrafted in the past
DK.
couple of years. Thank you. And then DK. I think that 5th round, 15th quarterback, running back off the board. I'm absolutely excited about him. I do think that you have to handcuff him with Charbonnet because he's going to get hurt, and as soon as he does, then Charbonnet gets to absorb all of his value. He gets hurt every
going
year.
to get hurt.
He runs so hard. Him and Pacheco, like, these guys they're unstoppable monsters, but they also
If he's on the field, though, you fire
Yes.
him up.
Oh,
This is
absolutely.
a dude you definitely want to have on your team.
Yes.
Like,
Agreed.
there's no doubt about that. If you want, this guy's going to score a touchdown anytime he plays.
Over Kyron Williams, I want to have Kenneth Walker. And the fact that they're not being drafted back to back, that you're getting Kenneth Walker, 2 rounds later, that's so huge. I'm all about Kenneth Walker, but like I said, I need to handcuff him with Charbonnet.
yeah, and that's where I was going to say as well. He, like we mentioned, go back and watch the Rams episode. If you get Kyron, you have to get Corum. If you get Walker, you have to get Zach Charbonnet. Like, you have to. It's to the point to where you've got these guys throughout the league to where their handcuffs are an absolute necessity. Like, it's not, oh, I'd like to have that handcuff. It's, no, I need this handcuff because the NFL is an injury league. Like, rarely do guys play every game, especially at the running back position.
Now, Lockett in like really deep leagues, like a 12 or a 14 team league, similar to what we were saying earlier in this episode on like how he was always the guy you could take super late and he's going to get his guaranteed targets. I don't think that he's going to get guaranteed targets, but he's definitely going to be on the field and he's going to have some value. I think that JSN is absolutely the best target on this team to grab. Wide receiver 46, 100th overall. It's not
value-wise, I agree.
It's not because of what he's guaranteed to do. It's because of what he could potentially do. He could potentially get 120 targets, 1,200 yards, and 10 touchdowns because he's that good. Besides Marvin Harrison Jr., he was the best wide receiver on that Ohio State team with Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, like Brian, can't think of his last name. White guy for the Dolphins.
Brian Hartline.
Brian Hartline is the receivers coach over
Dolphins
there.
legend.
Legend. And he's been teaching those boys everything he knows for years. That's part of why Ohio State is a total like factory for wide receivers. And he said in an interview last year before the draft that JSN was the best that has been drafted. Marvin Harrison Jr. he thought was better, but all those other guys, like it's JSN. So I have him in my dynasty league. I'm holding on to him because I know that his value is going to explode. I was willing to trade away other people like Amon-Ra and Brandon Ayuk to be able to trade up and get another young guy like JSN in either Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors, most likely. I think that this guy is why I was willing to do that. I think that people are undervaluing him, and let them take Puka Nacua in the first round, like at pick 9, because you know that JSN could potentially have more value than Puka Nacua. I know that sounds crazy, and people are going to come for my throat, but that's the way I view things. I think he's a much better receiver than Puka Nacua is.
Yeah, and from a value perspective, I would have to agree with you. Like we said in the Rams episode, Puka in the first round, we understand it, but it is a little rich when you consider Cooper Kupp could very well have a healthy season.
Yeah.
So he's going to take a hit. Looking at their over-under, they're set at 7.5 wins for the year. Where do you think that lands for them? Are you taking the over or the under on that? They went 9-8 in 2023.
So they went 9-8, and they really didn't lose. They lost quite a bit, but it was mostly on their defense. I think that with some of the games that they lost last year, they lost to the Rams week 1, they lost to the Bengals, they lost to the Ravens, they lost to the Rams again, they lost to the Niners twice, they lost to the Cowboys, and they lost to Pittsburgh. I think that they could have won a couple of those games as well, and I think that they're a very solid team. This is the first year without Pete Carroll, so at least they don't have a young team, and they lost their head coach. They have a very veteran-savvy team, so I think that they can start off strong right away. I don't think that they have a slump in the first 4 games. I think I'm going over 7.5.
Looking at their schedule, taking into the effect of rookie head coach, with the rookie head coach having a defensive background, I would have loved to see Bobby Wagner stay there for him to kind of help them get that defense worked in. Rookie head coach is just starting out, trying to build his team, trying to get his vision into that building. So looking at their schedule, I can see 7 wins. Anything after that, I have to really start convincing myself that they'd have to be able to steal a couple. And I lean under, I lean under right at the 7-win mark, like right under the 0.5. Like I said, if they ended up going over, wouldn't shock me in the slightest. But rookie head coach coming into this team, literally all the offensive players have not been drafted by him, regardless of how good they are, how good we think they are, how good they think they are. It's going to take some time to mesh some guys in there, get a new offensive scheme going. So I feel safe at 7 wins. Anything after that, I feel like I'm stretching it a little bit. I think they finished 3rd in their division.
I mean, it's a tough division. I think Rams easily finished 2nd. I think that they could potentially push them for 2nd, but it's unlikely. The roster, it's the quarterback play. Geno Smith is very solid, and he's got a very team-friendly deal, but he's not Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford took a team to a Super Bowl after being one of the best statistical quarterbacks almost every single year. He had more yards, more completions.
We did see a slight regression back to the mean for Geno last year.
Yes.
He missed 4 games, played in 15, 64% completion percentage, whereas the year before he was in the 70s.
70. Literally 70.2.
241 yards a game, but I look at his touchdown to interception ratio was basically 2-1.
Yeah, that's not good enough.
And so that's my thing, whereas the year before it was 3-1.
Yeah.
So there was some regression there for him. I'm rooting for Geno. I love the whole, they wrote me off, didn't write it back, all of that. So I hope he gets at least one more solid season under his belt. If he doesn't, though, and they do start to work on the guy Sam Howell, which, think about it, this coaching staff, this new one, is the team that traded for Sam Howell.
Yes.
So looking at that, I wouldn't be shocked to see Geno have a tight leash if things start struggle busing about eight games into the season.
If by then they start to go with Sam Howell, I think that's whenever JSN's potential stock goes way up. Same with DK. Like, Sam Howell was straight up slanging the ball last year. That's all he was asked to do. Now, they were behind in almost every game, but I think that could be what we're seeing right now. And if they're behind a lot and Geno starts throwing fourth quarter interceptions, they're going to throw Sam in. They're going to start to go with the young guy.
Their bye is in week 10. Ooh. What do you think their record has to be by their bye for them to pull Geno and go with Sam? Because typically when they wait for the bye week for that to happen.
If they don't have more than 4 wins, if they don't have at least 5-5, Sam Howell's getting the start from week 11 on. If they only have 4 wins or less at that point, then that's what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you could even make a case at 5-5 they start questioning things if the offense is part of the reason they're at 5-5. Because when you look at the rest of their schedule, the 49ers, the Jets, the Cardinals twice, the Packers, the Bears, the Rams, the Vikings, like, there's a couple almost for sure losses in there and some definite question marks, like, to where if you're sitting at 5-5 at the bye with this team, playoffs are going to be a long road. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. They're one of the more teams I am interested in with the rookie head coach and to see how they work these new guys. 12th man, if you're still here with us, we absolutely appreciate you guys hanging out. Comment, like, subscribe, do all that nonsense for us. We appreciate it. At 500 subscribers, we're giving away a free jersey to one of you lucky viewers. We are wanting to do it. We're begging to give away a jersey. So tell your friends, do it. Go to TulsiRoseT.com. We appreciate all of you. Pro Football Pod Dynasty, if you're interested, hit us up at Pro Football _pod on Twitter in the DMs. Love you guys. Peace out.